got it. Hey, Sonia.
Yeah,
What are we going to talk about today?
I think it's like toward the end of the year, it's like fourth quarter, and it feels right to like maybe talk a little bit about goal setting because I don't know about you, but I know every leader right now is working with goal setting. So I think we should talk about it.
I love it. Yes, we are going through the goal setting process too.
Mhm.
Um, and I think, like every other company, there is confusion.
Yeah,
There are
yeah,
challenges, which I think will be good to share with you. Yes.
yeah. What do you think the biggest challenges are that people kind of come up against with goal setting, that leaders kind of bump up against?
Yeah, I think the main challenge is finding the value in it.
Mhm.
Most of the business leaders and associate feel like, oh, this is just another process that they have to do in a system for the
Mhm.
sake of it. They don't
Yeah.
really understand the value of it. So maybe educating and making them aware of the real value when done right that it would provide to them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right. Like, I think that people are just accustomed to the doing, like the
Mhm.
actions. And so it's like, I don't have time to like pause and set goals. And it's like, you don't really have time to keep going without goal setting. Like that doesn't work in the long run. In the
Like,
long
where are you going without goals?
run. Just high speed chasing it down the road to nowhere. And how's that working for you, leader? How's that working for you? So what would you say for yourself? Like what are some goals that you're considering for yourself?
Um, Mine would be like work-wise or
Yeah, or either. I think people would love to hear how a leader like both, I think balancing, but maybe we start with professionally. Like what are some of
yeah.
your professional goals? Yeah.
I think in this role that I am in currently, I would love to explore the opportunity to implement an integrated talent management. What that means is I am creating visibility to the value that each process, talent management process has, and
Mhm.
will create or provide to them. So each process is also connected in a way that no single talent management process is done in silo.
Mhm.
It is uh, meaningful and it creates value for the next upcoming talent management process. So
Nice.
that's how I think of it, like a never ending continuous circle.
Yeah. And for those people who are watching the video, when you talk about the talent management process, what lives inside of that? Like what's tucked inside of the talent management process?
So I see it right even before an employee is in the organization or is part of the organization. So right from sourcing, like who
Mm.
do you really look for? Are you looking for just titles? Or are you looking for the right skill and competency to bring into your company?
Yeah.
So
Mm.
that's one mindset. And I have another perspective to bringing the right people in too.
Mm.
Eliminating biases like completely.
Yeah.
Can we ever get to a place when we don't look at the name? We don't look at any of identifying data points,
Mm.
but solely and purely just look at their skills and competencies, the potential of a
Mm.
candidate.
Oh wow. That's big. I'd like to see that one day. I would, but no, I think that's really big, and I think it even speaks to goal setting, right? Like
Mhm.
a leader doesn't know what they should be looking for at that stage if they've not really assessed what's happening within their org and maybe goal set for what is missing or like
Correct.
what is the skill set that's missing. So that's right in alignment with goal setting. That makes so much sense to me.
Yeah. How about
Yeah.
you?
For me, I think one of the biggest things is helping my team build trust with our business partners. That's a big it's a big area for me. I think that we are building a bridge. We're a learning and leadership team. And so we support an entire organization of senior leaders. And my biggest thing, I love Stephen M.R. Covey's work, Working at the Speed of Trust. And one
Yeah.
of the things that I shared with my team recently is all of the levels, the ripples of trust starts with self-trust. And
Mhm.
self-trust is building credibility. And
Mm.
so for me, that's what we need. That's our starting point. We have to make sure, and he has like these 4 levels, and it's like, do our business partners know our intentions? Are we acting in integrity? Do we have capabilities? Do they know that we're capable? And do we have a track record of results? And it's like, until we have that, we're not really going to be able to build further. And so to me, that is exceptional. Like, it's an exceptional resource that I'm like using right now to build trust with my business partners so that we can really do some big work next year. That's what we're
That,
up to. Yeah.
that sounds incredible. Okay,
Yes.
help me understand. In my mind, when I look at it, everyone, when they become people leader, they have good intentions, right? They want to do good for themselves. And that means that they're doing good and being a good manager or a leader for the team that reports to them.
Mm-hmm.
So, in a very normal or common environment, what does lack of trust look like? Like nobody
Mm,
except no one really goes into an office or starts a day with their team. They're like, I'm gonna lie to them. I'm like
yeah.
gonna do things that are gonna be counterproductive. Like that's
Right.
never the intention. But
Right.
we all know that people experience lack of trust because of certain unconscious behavior or
Mhm.
actions. So help me understand. What does lack of
Yeah.
trust look like?
I love that. And I love that you brought that in because I think I'll use the 4 things that I named because I think it's what it looks like. Like when people say that they're going to do something and they don't do it, or they
Mm,
lead you to believe that they have a skill set, but they don't have it, that destroys trust. It's hard for
yeah.
people to trust a leader who is not good for their word. They say something, but they don't follow through. So
Like
that's
what?
one
What?
thing.
Walk the talk? Talk the
They
walk?
don't they don't walk the talk. They
Yeah.
don't. They talk a good game, but when at the end of the day they're not walking the talk. And
Yeah.
that destroys trust. And I think a big thing, like when he starts with intentions, I think a lot of leaders forget, they just assume people understand what their intentions are, but people don't know our intention until we tell them. We have to
Mm,
let them know this is what I'm up to. This is the plan. Like the relationships that I'm building with my org, they need to know what my intentions are, and they need to know that my intentions are to align with them and the work that they're doing. And if they don't know that, it looks like we're just off on an island making up stuff and not doing the thing that they need us to do. And so to me that destroys trust. And then what I love, that image that I was talking about, the integrity and intention, it's
yeah.
like a tree, and it's the stuff underground. It's the stuff like that's inside of each leader. You can't really see it until you like experience it. And then the top of the tree, like the trunk and the leaves, those are the capabilities and results, because you can see that. And so you can see if a leader is capable. You like,
Ah,
maybe they have the skill set, they have the strength, they have, like, you see them. Like, one example of that is as I was building my relationship with my team, one meeting they asked me to provide an activity at the beginning, and so I led that, and that was a breaking point for, they could see that is actually a space that I hold. It's like I can get in front of a group of people and facilitate pretty much any topic because it's my
yeah.
space. And so I was able to show them. So what they know for sure now is that I have a skill set. I am capable to facilitate an activity or a conversation. And then I need to build a track record of results. They're not
Yeah.
going to trust me if I don't have any results. They're not going to trust it. And so I think that storytelling, and I think that's a good space for goal setting too, like being able to story tell, like at the end of the day, this is what we did. We're at the end of the year. So goal setting also is like reflective of what did we
Yeah.
do? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So providing clarity on the final destination,
mhm,
and then at the same time building credibility as a leader
mm,
with your team members, so they know that they're whatever direction has been shown to them, that's the right one, and they can fully trust you as a leader. And that,
Absolutely.
yes, okay, now that all makes sense. And I can see that, like when we say, hey, a perfect or close to perfect goal setting is gonna impact positive results or positive metrics in engagement and motivation of the team, because
Mhm.
they trust you and they know what they're doing and where they're going. Okay.
Right. And the results are directly tied to their priorities. And so, and what
Right.
I like that you just did, which I really appreciate, is while I was talking about like our business partners, it absolutely impacts how I work with my team. My team needs to know what the plan is and they need to be aligned to it. And so I love
Yeah.
that you did that, because that is like, I can't really build relationships with other people if my relationships with my team are not, like, as a leader, if I haven't built trust with them, then it's going
Mhm.
to be really difficult for me to prove to be credible with my business partner. So I like that
Yeah.
you brought this in.
Yeah. No, I love that. What else?
Yeah. Let's see. I think if there were just a simple kind
Mhm.
of ABC to goal setting, I think it'd be nice to just hot off the presses if we could kind of think of that. I think when I think about what we've been talking about, it's like if I'm setting goals, I'm looking back on, like, I'm reflecting maybe one on the results of the year. Um, it's almost like beginning, middle, and end. It's
Yeah.
like, or like before. So what happened before? What do I need to anchor in right now? What do I need to do now? And then planning for the future. It almost is like all three of those live in the same place.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pause for a second. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, because when you mentioned about the end result or the end part, it makes me think of, the integrated talent management that I spoke about at the beginning. Because if you do the goal setting process right, what is going to help is the annual performance management process more meaningful and effective, because you set directions, you're continuously monitoring the directions. Of course it may change, like into
Yeah.
one quarter, into goals change, business objectives change, that's all fine. But if you are in the process, you can update it and have those continuous conversations about your pivoting directions as well. And what
Yeah.
that would do is, when you have the performance evaluation, you have a very valid historical data to make it more meaningful and fair to the employee when you're rating somebody's performance, because you've been discussing it all year. What I
Right.
have experienced in multiple organizations is that performance management is done for the sake of it, and everybody is scrambling for, let me see what this person did.
Right.
uh, and
Which is
most of the
horrible.
time, yes, it's just not
Yeah,
fair to an
it's
employee.
not.
And most of the time, recency bias plays into play.
Exactly.
It's like,
Yeah.
I know this person has not been doing that well the past 2 months, but that could
Right.
be a personal life event that
Hmm.
impacts, or maybe lack of resources at the company that impacted their performance, but there is no
Hmm.
track of data for their entire year. And the
Right.
manager and the employee did not have that continuous loop of conversation or communication about goals. So that's what I wanted to say. At the end was, if you keep connecting the dots, like I say, in talent
Hmm.
management processes, goal setting is going to make the following processes very meaningful and fair.
I love that. It's almost like when I think about track and there's this like kind of four-legged race and each person has to pass the baton to the next and then the
Yeah.
next. I think about that because like goal setting, and I love that you mentioned, like, you have to have moments where you're anchoring somebody in. This is what you said you would be up to. Here's where we are. Is there anything that needs to be adjusted? That does not happen often. People are
Yeah.
like, no, you said you were going to do it. And you said you were going to do it by the end of the year. And I talked to you in January, and here it is November, and you haven't done it. And it's like, that is completely unfair. It's completely unfair because the person has no idea that you were still even thinking about the goal that
Yeah.
was set because you didn't bring it back up to them at all. And so
Most
that
of
is
the
a,
time, the
yeah,
employee is like, you're doing this to me because you don't want to give me more money.
100%. And maybe that's true for some people, but it's not fair and it's not an equitable
Yeah.
process. And it
Correct.
leaves a lot of subjectivity to a leader to be able to make choices. And I love that you brought in recency bias because it is true. Like we're not even designed, I think, neurobiologically to hold that amount of information for the number of people who report to us over an
Yeah.
entire year. That's not even it's not even a physical like capability. And so we really should be like touching base. We should be
Yeah.
having one-on-ones. We should be having like maybe month to month kind of check-ins. We should be having quarterly, like some sort of check-in to say,
Yeah.
like, do we need to make an adjustment? And so
Correct.
then when you get to that year-end process, people should be very clear about what they're being measured on because you've been talking about it, just like you said. So I agree completely.
Exactly.
Completely. Yeah. Why do
I
you think
think
leaders
what
don't do
you
that? Why do you think leaders don't follow that process?
I think they get caught in the weeds of everything else.
Mhm. Yeah.
The focus is something that I have seen what has been lacking because, you know, the higher up you are in the organizational org structure, always there's this added pressure of performance for yourself. And at the same time, more responsibilities. You're being pulled into multiple conversations, discussion, crisis management. And somewhere along that chaos, you kind of miss the point of your main responsibility, which
Yeah.
is giving that direction, clear direction to your team members who are relying on you 100%.
Yeah. I agree completely. And it's yeah, it's so unfortunate when people fall into that space because it impacts them, it impacts the employee, it impacts the company because there's so much attrition. There's so much attrition around this. The fact
Yeah.
that somebody did not hold them and you know, even accountability when you think about it. Like I was
Yes.
gonna say somebody didn't hold them accountable, but it's like accountability is really a gift. But if
Mhm.
you don't know how to properly goal set and you don't know really literally how to hold people to what they said and then even offer spaces of adjustment, then accountability is a bad word. And
Mhm.
then you're stuck being unfair to somebody, which that does not turn out well. It
Ooh,
really doesn't.
you know
Yeah.
what? I really want your thought on this one. When you said accountability, and I want to loop it back to the trust topic that you mentioned.
Mhm.
How can you build trust among your team members
Yeah.
in a way that it's a safe environment for your team members to hold you accountable?
Mhm.
Like, how does that work, or what does that look
Yeah.
like?
I literally believe it starts with humility. Like a leader has to know some of the best feedback is going to come from people who work for you. It's just if you really truly want to be a good leader, it starts with humility and just understanding that we're not hired because we're perfect. We're not hired because we have all of the answers. We're hired because we answered a group of questions that said we would be really good in that space. And so sometimes what I have learned is that sometimes leadership surfaces from high performance. And so
Mhm.
like people high perform in a role and then they get into leadership. I think the thing that is needed in that space, and this might be a little bit of a rabbit, but the thing that is needed in that space is leadership development. So that a person who is a high performer in their previous role can become equipped to be a really good leader. And so it starts with really just starting in the space of curiosity and humility, just like wanting to know, asking more questions than making more statements. That's,
Oh,
you
I love
know,
that.
I think
Yes.
that's the curious space. So you're curious about what's happening. You're curious about how people are doing, right? And so
Yeah.
I think that builds trust. For me, over the years, that's been the thing that really works for the way that I lead. I lead from a real connected space with people, and so that's
Mhm.
important to me. I think in addition to that, all of the other behaviors about like really being intentional,
Yeah.
having very clear expectations. Brene Brown says, clear as kind. I
Yeah.
believe that as a
Mhm.
leader, clear as kind. If I want to build trust with my people, I have to be very clear if something is right or if it's wrong. And I disagree with something, I still have to be clear about it. And I have to set people up to understand that. Um, And I think people shy away from hard conversations, which sometimes
Mhm.
accountability can be a hard conversation. But
Yes.
my experience has been when I've built trust the right way by being curious and humble, people
Mhm.
actually have an appreciation for me holding them accountable. They have an appreciation for me bringing them to account to what they said they would do. And people
Yeah.
actually appreciate it as opposed to the opposite. And I think that's the thing people need to understand. Like people don't honor when you don't hold them accountable. They said they were going to do it, they didn't do it, and you don't say anything about it. That's
Yeah.
not that's not really the best way to lead people. Hopefully that answered your question.
Yes, it does, and 100% agree. As you were speaking, I was thinking about like my moments of learning, right? Like, of course, being humble and wanting to grow as a leader, always being in a learning space. Just
Mm-hmm.
because I have reached a level of management does not mean that I have nothing more to learn. And how
Right.
are you going to learn in that space? Of course, by getting that feedback from the people that you work with and the
Mhm.
people, I think simply the people that you work with.
Yes,
And that will be,
absolutely. Whether it's somebody that you report to, somebody who reports to you, the people who you work with. I love
yeah,
that. It's a good
yeah,
distinction.
yeah.
It really is. There was
That is,
something I was gonna say when you were talking about curiosity, and I think it slipped my
uh,
mind, but I was thinking there was something around it's gone. Disregard it. I'll edit it. I'll
it
edit
will
that
come
out.
back.
I'll edit it out. um so I think I don't know, we've talked about a lot of things for goal setting. Is there anything missing that you think maybe we need to talk about, or maybe we could even talk about it on another video?
I think we're going to talk about it in another video. And what I was thinking is when we talked about goal setting and to make it more meaningful and effective, what stood out to me was, and this is probably because of I'm a process driven
Yes,
person,
100%.
the importance of having a standard process,
Yeah.
communicating, and then sticking with it.
Ah,
Uh, because, of course, we can talk about best practices, but what is that action plan to make it happen?
um,
And that's what I was thinking that could be our next video.
I love that. Well, let's do it. And I
Yeah.
think it's good because that's your space, and I love it. I respect that so much. I love it. Well, thank you all so much for watching Leadership Lens, and we will see you on our next video.
Thank you.
Bye. I really feel like that's a podcast. I really do.
I loved it. It just flew, just like how you and me
It's
would
how
talk.
we talk. I think it's a podcast. Like I could literally listen to that while I was driving. That's what I was thinking. Like,
Mm,
let me stop the recording.
well, we put it as a YouTube video, and I don't know.